Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we're installing a hood mount kit on a 2019 and up Dodge Ram 1500. The same kit works for the Ram 2500 and the Ram TRX. The kit offers a powerful white light as well as amber DRL capability. Alright, so let's pop the hood and see how we can mount the pods. First thing we're going to do is going to remove this windshield washer line. We're going to just use a prying tool or screwdriver. It's just a plastic clip. And we're going to be reusing that hole to mount the M&R bracket. So we pop it out. There's a clip here. And we're going to reuse this opening to fit a bolt through to house our mount. So here I have the driver and the passenger mount. Notice that the hole in the bottom, that's going to be the one that we're using for the hole that we took out from the clip from the windshield washer. And the top elongated side, notice that the orientation of them points outward. So that way it'll clear the windshield wipers. And I'll show you exactly how I install them. This is the driver's side and this is the passenger. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a washer on the inside and I'm going to feed the mounting bolt through the washer and through the eyelid. I'm going to slide the bracket, attach it, feed it through that opening. And I will put the bolt on this side. Okay. Now here comes the fun part. I am going to feed my wrench from one side and I'm going to tighten the bracket. Don't tighten it all the way. We might still need to adjust it to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the windshield wipers. It's only a couple turns and now we'll be able to install the pod and see how it clears the windshield washer to see if we need to adjust the bracket. The next part of the installation process would be to mount the cradle from the lights to the M&R mount. So we're going to go ahead and use the supplied hardware, a bolt and a washer from top. And we're going to put a washer and a nut on the bottom. We're going to attach them first and then install the light pod. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the windshield wiper so that way we know how far off we have in order to space them out. Okay, so we're going to mount it this way. We're going to attach the light on. We're going to run the windshield wiper one more time so that way we can see if it'll clear the pod itself. And then we'll do the final tie down. I install the pod. Go ahead and tighten the bigger bolt in the middle. And then there's also a smaller one which will hold the light right behind it. And that's the adjustment bolt for aiming the light up and down. I'm going to get a supporting wrench on the bottom. Supporting wrench on top. Let me go ahead and use the windshield wiper one more time and then we'll go ahead and angle them. Notice that the light is slightly slanted. Feel free to palm it with your hand and you can maneuver it to straighten it out. And we're going to go ahead and turn this on one more time just to make sure it doesn't interfere. Now that we like the positioning of the pod, we're going to go ahead and tighten that one bolt on the bottom from inside the engine bay. That'll tighten the M&R mount. You can see it clears the windshield and the windshield wipers. I am going to hold the bolt from one side and tighten it from inside. So now we're completely finished with the installation on the driver's side. I would always start the install from the driver's side because you have the issue of the windshield wipers. On the passenger side, you shouldn't have that similar issue. This is the passenger side bracket. We're going to go ahead and slide that washer. We're going to slide the 1/4 inch bolt and do the same thing you did here on the driver's side. So once again, I want to go over the light and the cradle itself. You are provided with 4 different bolts that hold the sides of the pod. You have 2 of the larger ones that go on the inner hole, and then you have the smaller ones that control the angling on a slotted system towards the back. So we're going to separate this, install the cradle first, and then we're going to go ahead and attach the light to the cradle. All right, we're going to install the cradle. We're going to put the supplied bolt and washer from the top, and we're going to also put a washer and a nut on the bottom. Going to slide the pod onto the cradle and put the larger bolts into the center holes, and the smaller ones onto the rear ones. Since the light is not attached to the M&R mount yet, we can still swivel it and tighten this side. So next thing I want to do, I want to space out so that way they're symmetrical on both sides of sliding the bracket left and right. So I'm going to reference how we got it down over there, and the main reason we started with the driver's side is so that way we know the position of that light after the windshield wipers were cleared. So you can see it's on the inner slot of the cradle, so we're going to simulate the same thing on this side. So let's talk about the wiring. The wiring harness has the main power wire for 2 power sources as discussed, and it has 2 separate grounds. So these are black wire, so it's going to go black to black on the lights themselves. Let's go through the wiring harness. The wiring harness that M&R supplies links the 2 lights together and brings 2 power sources, 2 auxiliary switches if your vehicle is equipped with it. If your vehicle is not equipped with auxiliary switches, you would still utilize the same wiring harness to link the lights, but then you would have to use an aftermarket wiring harness to provide 2 powers to this harness itself. It does have a Y shape. The Y bridge is going to be connected at the driver's side. So the way we're going to stretch this out, since the Y is on the driver's side, this is going to reach to the passenger, and then the other side of the cable is going to go to either the auxiliary switch hookups or to a generic wiring harness. As you notice, the pods themselves, they have the 2 power sources for a red and white wire, as well as the wiring harness that has the same color scheme. So you would just simply connect black to black, white to white, and red to red. Easy enough? Okay, so let's get started with the wiring. Notice that the light themselves, they have a red, white, and a black wire. So we're going to go ahead and crimp the 2 power sources, which is red to red, white to white. And then we're going to have a separate grounding strap, which is here, and that's how we're going to attach the ground to the lights themselves. So first, let's do the red and the white. In case you do mess these up, you can always pick up extra crimp connectors at your local auto parts store. For the ground, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get our grounding strap. If you notice, on one end it has an eyelid. On the second end it has a crimp connector. So we're going to go ahead and crimp the black wire onto the crimp connector, and then we're going to ground this light kit onto the chassis of the vehicle. Okay. Tug on it slightly, just to make sure you have a good crimp. Now the bolt hole that we're going to use is this one for the eyelid portion. So we're going to take this bolt out. We're going to slide this through our eyelid, and we're going to put the same bolt back in, and that should give us a good ground. So now that we've provided the power to 2 of the sources and the ground on the passenger side, we're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. Follow me. Notice that you should have plenty of wire in order to go across the engine bay. And just as we mentioned, the Y split up is going to be at the driver's side. We're going to crimp the lights here, the same thing we did on the passenger. And then the rest of that cable, that's going to go either to the auxiliary switches or to a generic wiring harness. For the ground, we're going to use the same bolt we did on the passenger side. It's the same one on the driver. The last thing to do is to provide power to the wiring harness. If your vehicle is equipped with auxiliary switches, you would just connect the 2 power sources to the 2 wires provided. The white would be the power source for the amber DRL, and the red would be the power source to the main white light. So you would use 2 different auxiliary switches. If your vehicle is not equipped with auxiliary switches, then you would have to use a generic wiring harness that M&R does not provide, but we'll provide a link in the description so that way you can purchase it on Amazon. Notice that it has a little control module with 2 different switches, and that's going to allow you to turn on 2 different functions of the pods individually. And you would just have to connect the M&R wiring harness to the power of the wiring harness itself. Let's go ahead and supply the power to these 2 wires and show you how the lights operate. Each end of the wiring harness is a little bit over 6 feet. The main reason we designed it so that way you can reach to various places to connect the 2 auxiliary switches. If you wish to shorten them, you're more than happy to. You would just cut it and put new crimp connectors on there. Another alternative is just to kind of get the access and put zip ties so that way it's shorter to where you need it. As I mentioned earlier, you do want to heat shrink this, so apply some heat with a heat gun or a lighter, and then these will shrivel up and make watertight connections. Well, now we have watertight connectors. Thank you guys for watching. This is how you mount and wire the M&R hood mount kit using the supplied wiring harness. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some zip ties on here to make this nice and tight to the frame. I also like to get the wiring harness and actually attach it to the hood hinge, so that way it follows the hood hinge, and that makes it a little more tighter in the engine bay.